NEP Rao rocks Parliament. DMK moves privilege motion against Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan for his statement. A harrowing flight for Chicago. Delhi Air India passengers, they spent 10 hours in the air with clogged toilets. Actor Rania Rao sent to 15-day DRI custody in the gold smuggling case. She claimed verbal abuse in custody. Controversy over fashion show during Ramzan in Gulmarg. Omar Abdullah says his government would have never permitted such an event. Vanuatu decides to cancel its passport to IPL founder. Lalit Modi says it's just an attempt to avoid extradition to India. ED raised the residence of former Chhattisgarh CM Bhupesh Baghel as it investigates his son in the liquor scam case. The Khodwa community seeks additional security for actress Rashmika Mandana following a Congress MLA's controversial comment against her. And Mark Carney wins race to become Canada's 24th Prime Minister, succeeding Justin Trudeau, slams Trump's tariff plans in his first comments. MH's free movement of people is being violently opposed by Kuki militants that led to weekend violence in Manipur. After Home Minister Amit Shah's direction to enforce free movement on highways, buses began running on two routes, Imphal, Kanpokpi and Senapati, and Bishnupur, Churachandpur, Imphal, passing through Maiti, Kuki and Naga areas. The fresh wave of clashes in Manipur suggests a fragile state of peace. The situation in Manipur's Kanpokpi district remained tense after the weekend violence. What the Kuki militants have done is not correct. They resist free movement of people in Manipur. People were injured in the weekend clashes. Security forces also injured, and these militants fired on security forces from the hill, and the movement of people stands disrupted. Now, they have called for a shutdown. The Kukizo group calls for a shutdown in Kuki-dominated areas. Protesters blocked Imphal-Dimapur and Imphal to Mizoram highways. Kuki groups demand separate union territory, which is a clear no now if indications are to go by. And provocation was due to protest march by Maiti organization, they claim. But there is a version of the police, and I need to say that not only police were at the receiving end, but their men are critical, two of them. So I quote verbatim that there were incidents of firing amongst the protesters to which the security forces retaliated. Due to heavy pelting of stone, use of catapults and random firing by armed miscreants, 27 security forces suffered injuries, including 2 critical injuries. The security forces showed tremendous restraint during the skirmish. 16 protesters were reportedly injured. 1 protester succumbed to injuries. Now the fact of the matter is, Centre is trying to create space for talks among communities. The Federation of Civil Societies has welcomed the initiative. Kuki groups are opposing MHA's initiative. The resistance is not in national interest. And my big question is, will Kuki groups recognize that politics of confrontation is unsuitable in long run? That's number one. And my second question is, will Kuki community respond to appeals to withdraw the shutdown? Before I play out the bites, let me introduce my guest first. I'm joined by Rami Niranjan Desai, author and a political analyst. Dr. Chombing, Assistant Professor, National Law University. Geeta Rani Tankhalbam, Advocate, High Court, Manipur, and PK Mishra, former ADG BSF. Straight away, without wasting any time, let's just be on point. Rami, how do you assess this situation?
Karthikeya, good evening. You know very well that I was traveling. I've just landed where I was supposed to be today, and the only reason I came on this show is because I think this is so very important, and the fact that you are doing it and your channel is doing it. Let me say at the outset that this is absolutely a situation of these groups exposing themselves to the world, to the country, and to what we've always suspected, that peace and resolution was never an option, that the fact remains that there is ulterior motives, and that is the final agenda of what these ulterior motives are. I have said right from the beginning of this conflict, right on your show, that a union territory status would never be agreeable. It would not be agreeable to the people of Manipur. It would not be agreeable to the government of India. I have said from day one that there are groups that are willing to come on the negotiating table from both the communities. And I think last week, a function, an event that was held in Delhi between the Thado Impi and the Methi Alliance proved that there are groups who are willing to come on the negotiating table and are looking towards a peaceful resolution to this. But what we are seeing today, Karthikeya, and I say this without mincing my words, is absolutely what we suspected, that there are people, there are groups that are sort of insisting on this conflict, not finding a resolution because of the ulterior motives that they have. Now, when we talk about national highways being blocked, considering that the state has gone through, the last year and a half of extremely difficult times, that people have had to deal with huge amount of economic inflation. Why would you do this? Not only does this impact, it's not just impacting the Methi community, it's impacting everybody who lives in Manipur. Prices have gone up. These highways are, lifelines for the state, not just to the rest of the states in neighboring states, but to the rest of the country. They supply essential commodities. Emergency activity can happen through these highways. Why would you stop it until and unless you don't have the larger good in mind for the state and for the people who live in the state? Number two, you are attacking security forces. First, you had a problem with, one community or another. Next, you had a problem with your demands not being met. That time you didn't have a problem with the security forces. Now that you realize that your agenda, your ulterior motive is not going to be met, you have turned against the security forces. I want to know, where is this going to take these people? Because at the end of the day, turning on the security forces makes you lose this favor of not just the people of Manipur, citizens of this country, but really makes you lose moral standing. I think that's what's happening.
Absolutely. Let me play out the bite of a local and Bimol Akoijam, and then I'll go to Geeta Rani.
I've told Governor we share on these issues. I think they have taken the right decision. The authority of the state must be asserted. Nobody should blackmail the state. And the highway, because blocking that is against Article 19, which is a fundamental right of the citizens. So the state is duty bound to defend citizens' right. So free movement is part of that. So the state is on its constitutional jurisdictions to do it. And in fact, this is their duty and responsibility, and they should. My only wish is that they should handle it firmly, but with sensitivity that is required, because we had this long conflict. So that's the only thing that I would say.
All Manipur people, we want to go through the national highway in peace, in peace relay. But state forces, they are just block us.
अभी यहाँ पे सरकार बोल रहा था यहाँ जाना जो है वो जाना हो जाएगा अंदर में, यानी इसका पार यानी बॉर्डर क्रॉस कर सकेगा, मगर अभी तक सरकार ने इसका इजाजत खाली जबान में दिया है और काम कुछ नहीं है। हम जाने के लिए कोशिश कर रहे हैं, फिर भी जाने नहीं दे रहा है। आर्मी लोग मिलिट्री लोग मना कर रहे हैं हमको कि मत जाओ। इसका मतलब है कि सरकार का अंदर कुछ बात है, अभी भी क्लियर नहीं है, तो हमको जाने अभी तक नहीं दे रहा है। इसका मतलब ये है कि अभी भी शांति नहीं है।
Let me go across to Geeta Rani. Is it tantamount to blackmailing the state?
Yes, Karthik, it is blackmailing. Until you, give us our demand, we are going to block the highway. I mean, what kind of, what kind of demand is this against the state? And then people are suffering. And as we all agree, the premise is that this highway should be free for all. And the Home Ministry has taken a correct step. But in my opinion, by allowing this anarchy to prevail in the two districts for more than 21 months, the militant group, the separatists, they have been emboldened to believe our demands is nearing We are about to fulfill our demands. So we should continue with this for longer period. So in order to, bring normalcy, it's not going to happen suddenly unless very strict, brutal action is taken against them, which I feel the state is reluctant to do so. And Kartika, in my opinion, these people who are coming out on the street with stones and, with guns and everything, they have been instigated by the separatist group. Here, when I say separatist group, I see militants, then I see the politicians, the separatist leaders, and the CSOs. So, first step we need to do is take away the Sioux militants, keep them inside their camps, monitor the weapons as they are supposed to be done as per the terms of the Sioux agreement. And those militants who are outside with guns, those non-Sioux militant groups, they should be disarmed and their movements should be monitored. And as regards the CSOs, their funding needs to be investigated. The money trail needs to be looked into it. If they're getting fund from outside, whether they have SCRA license, all this needs to be investigated, because without fund, this protest cannot last for long. The arms they're getting from outside, and then funds getting from drug smuggling, all this needs to be investigated. There is a long process, and I think the center, by testing the water on the 7th, on the 8th, they must have known how serious the matter is now.
Absolutely.
So I believe correct step will be taken next time. And, first step, as I mentioned, has to be disarming the Sioux militants and the VDF, so-called VDF, where they are, reading out these ultimatums with full guns and, uniform and cut them out.
Okay.
So this kind of thing should not be allowed to happen.
Okay. Dr. Tombing, let me ask this question point blank. I think a lot of, and I know you are not the spokesperson of the Kuki community. You are here as an assistant professor for the National University, Law School and Judicial Academy. But my question to you is, why do you think that they are opposing this free movement of people when the original demand was that the Biren Singh should be removed and the president rule should be implemented? When the principal demand has been met, why the right of the other community is being violated? And don't you think that instead of turning an inter-ethnic issue, you are directly challenging the might of the state? Now this time it has become a community versus the state.
Yes, the recent development which has happened in these last 2 days is concerning for many factors. And in fact, the Kuki Zomi has demanded for the resignation of the CM, and then finally when the CM resigned, it has elapsed many months, and it seemed the faith in the entire state system has also by that time eroded in the heart and mind of the communities as well. But then if we look beyond the stress and then the concern and then the oversteps and everything, what also can be seen is that the attempt by the Home Minister to make it a free movement, maybe the masses are not at all ready as yet. And I say this with responsibility for the very fact that it has been 21 months plus now. And you could see that there were some viral videos on X and all that from both the communities. In fact, young teenage girls even sloganeering, placarding that a certain section of community should be wiped out from the face of the earth. And to counter that, when this free movement initiation were taken up, there is another woman who holds up a iron rod and say, "You guys come, I'll show you."
Just to put it sociologically, let's not get into the individuals. I'm saying that when Amit Shah held a meeting, he clearly said that the free movement of people is essential to restoring normalcy. If the people of the hills have right, the people of the valley also have the rights. And people of Manipur also have the right to use the highways. I mean to say, these are not the visuals I have manufactured through artificial intelligence. These are real visuals I have shown there. These are the real visuals.
I was making my point to come to what I wanted to say. In 20 months' time, the hatred has gone too deep that in Manipur we have lost the discernment of existential query of right from wrong. we are so much vested into the hateful and vengeful aspect of this ethnic clash that now we are nothing but bitter, murderous resentment that we have. That is what has become of us.
Okay.
And in this 21 months, it has gone deep, so deep into the psyche of the people. I'm afraid maybe it has gone into the genetic memory of youngsters. And in the generations to come, it might proliferate, if my postulation is correct. How do you fix that? And this misstep or overstep, whatever the outcome that has happened, it kind of reflect where we are positioned with regard to a certain concern of maybe healing or maybe overcoming the concern of ethnic clashes.
No, I do understand healing touch, Dr. Tom. That I do understand, Dr. Tombing, that any healing touch requires justice. I'm sure you put your argument in a very sophisticated way. But today I'm just trying to locate my conversation around free movement, or else, it just gets diluted and there are multiple issues. So I will just focus on free movement. Let me just go across to PK Mishra, then I'll go to Rami again. I know you are connected on ground, so can you tell us what happened on Saturday and Sunday, and how did the Monday fare for Manipur, sir?
Yes, I can well tell you, Karthikeya, what exactly has happened. I could see it every minute I was watching.
Tell us what happened.
It was happening. And you see, 27 security personnel were injured. It's not only they stopped the movement of the convoy, but they have burnt number of vehicles, including a police vehicle. They have burnt it and they blocked the road. And the separatists, the worst part of it, they started firing on security forces. I really salute to the police forces who didn't open fire, and practically, I'm telling, even the SP Sanapati, Mr. Dharmendra, he was pushed also by some ladies. I am not mentioning from which community, but he was pushed. But he kept quiet. I'm salute to this SP Sanapati also. But they tried their best. There was even the Kuki forum, they came out that yes, they will protest. And what is happening today? The bus, in fact, all the national highways, they are blocked. No, from Noni and Tamenglong, some Nagas, they wanted to go to Silchar through Jiribam National Highway in NS37, and that was blocked at T-colon, and they were not allowed to pass, and they had to return. And more or less, both the national highways are blocked. That means some of the separatist group who are having enough fund through this drug mafias and narco terrorism, they are creating problems. And you see, I'm telling you what has happened that day in a Casper vehicle. Instead of that vehicle which was there, the MST bus, in a Casper vehicle, two Maitis were there. They were sitting in that Casper vehicle, and the protesters, they came to know that these two Maitis, they reached Kaithalmanvi. They were surrounded by thousands of protesters. I salute my boys. The way they went there, they get out and they could extract those two Maitis from that place, from Kaithalmanvi near Kankopi, and they brought them back safe to Imphal. But today what is happening, they have totally stopped. They have totally blocked both the national highways. And it goes against the interest of the state. It goes against the interest of against national interest. You can't keep national highway closed. You see, how the state will run, that has to be seen. And the only way is, we have to start this convoy with force and deployment of ROPs, both sides of the road and the hills to be cleared.
Okay.
That's the only. And there is no other option.
This brings me to this question, fundamental question. Rami, how should this politics of confrontation be demolished? And how do we deal with these CSOs who have usurped the power of the state?
Karthikeya, I think it's really incumbent on the people of these communities to really stand up and, reject this sort of politics, reject these sort of demands, especially when everybody has been through a prolonged emotional process and, is looking for some amount of normalcy. My dear panelist, Dr. Tombing, did say that, there's this hatred that's permeated into people and it might go into the next generation. Yes, sir, it might go into the next generation, and that is what we must fear, because I have seen visuals that should be condemned by everyone. I've seen children pulling tires in the middle of the highway. I've seen women blockading our police forces when they're just trying to do their jobs, And if you don't want this to go to the next generation, then this has to be somehow the messaging has to go into the community that this is unacceptable. Children and women cannot be involved in this conflict and cannot be involved in a way where you are confronting the state itself. So what are you teaching the next generation? That it's all right to be an anarchist? And then if the security forces retaliate, you become enemy of the state, the security forces become enemy number one of the people. This is a really unfair situation to put the rest of the country in, to put our security forces
Rami,
in.
is it because of the fact that the government, there's a message that has gone that territorial integrity of Manipur will be respected?
But Kartikeya, territorial integrity of Manipur should be respected. We will all here on your channel agree with it. But somehow there is somebody manipulating the politics behind the scene wherein illiterate, poor people are being used as cannon fodder to be buffers for the politics that, these secessionist separatist groups are playing. Of course, the primacy of the state is hugely important to us. But what do you do if civil, educated people are not willing to raise their voices just because they are people of their own community? Like I said, I celebrate the move by the Thado MP. I celebrate the move by Meitei Alliance, to bring people together and speak in one voice that resonates with, the kind of peaceful demand that people have been asking for. But here is the problem, and here is what I fear, is because of this tacit sort of support that we are seeing that is going out, and these people who are blockading being made into heroes, being put on a pedestal. What is going to happen is this fight is going to turn inward. What they're not realizing is there are going to be factions within the community as well. And what are you going to do then? I think what needs to be done, Kartikeya, and I say this most humbly, I think rational voices need to come out from across the communities, just the way the Thado MP has come out. But I also feel what needs to be done now is lock, stock and barrel. The state needs to go against anybody who is stopping the peace process. These roads have not been made by one person. This is the Indian taxpayers' money. And
absolutely. So how do you draw the line? Geeta Ranji, how do you draw the line? Because you see, mobilization in Manipur has one unique aspect, a very unique aspect. Women take over the public spaces from both communities. I mean, so this is something very, very fundamentally different from other mobilizations. Women take over the public spaces. But how do you draw the line?
Yes, Kartikeya. Actually, we have seen in Manipur, like from both sides, the common people, especially the women, are being, used by the CSOs mostly. We see because the central forces will be reluctant to act against them. So when you see the front line are being led by the women folk. So actually, I just want to highlight this highways needs to be open not only for the Meiteis, it's for both. For the valley people, the goods are coming in, that has been stopped, but also for the hill people, for the Kuki community, for the Sikh people, they have to travel to Aizawl for hours, 11 hours, I believe. And they can come to Imphal within 1 hour and get the treatment. So by the leaders blocking these highways, instigating the people to block these highways, they are making the common people suffer. For those leaders, they have money, they can easily travel by flight, but what about the common people? So in both communities, it's the common people who are suffering, but sadly, like Rami has mentioned, the rational voices, the intellectuals, they need to come out and speak out actually against the CSOs. And when you want to fight against a state, you are using these common people who are already suffering as a cannon fodder. This is not fair. This is not a quality of the leaders. Like, the politicians you have elected also, they are following the lines of the separatists and the militants. So somewhere the state has to step in and bring out these leaders, call them out, and make them take a stand. Are you against or for the state? Because they are part of the government, they're elected by the people, but they are, siding with the military, with the separatists. So this
I do agree with you, Geetarani. One thing I have noticed in 2 years, the state has not used hard force. Indian state knows how to use hard force. They have dealt very efficiently in Kashmir and Punjab. But in Manipur, the state has not used the hard force. This is something, state has shown, the security has shown immense restraint. I think that's the word I would use for security forces. Immense restraint has been demonstrated in Manipur. That immense restraint has not been demonstrated in other theatres where foreign actors became evident, where disturbances was being manufactured from Punjab to Kashmir. But in Manipur, the word is immense restraint.
But now they have to step in, Kartikeyan. They have to step in strong.
Okay, Dr. Toming, my question to you is, when the message is loud and clear that there is no separate administration, why can't Kuki groups explore all the avenues of the constitutions like 6th schedule, 5th schedule? Why aren't those options being explored?
I agree with most of our panelists, and I must say I agree with you as well. The constitutional special protection scheme, which has been in place in some states, particularly in the states of Nagaland, Manipur, Mizoram, has an idea of maternalistic pattern to it. And in fact, Mizoram has always, Manipur has always held a very special place in the heart of Union of India. That is a fact also. And another concern is that when it comes to tribal communities or maybe marginalized section of the society, the idea is to assimilate them into the larger the larger definition of what India is, and therefore maybe tell them about the larger context of fraternity. So it is maybe for this many reason that when it was conceived also, it was always a maternalistic approach to it. And so far, there is no paternalistic accountability to any of the aspect of governance in the state of the Northeast, for example, Manipur, etc. And this has gone on for like 60 plus years now. And somewhere in the heart and mind of the people, there is an imagined idea of demographic immunity against state prosecution. And in fact, this Manipur mayhem has never occurred, and it has occurred for the first time. And this mayhem has for the first time unleashed an idea of a Majoritarian community deeply entrenched in an idea of ethnic violence. And that has in one way created lots of stalemate. And another thing also, what has happened is that the coming up to this 21 months, in the beginning it was hazy, it was unclear, everything was rushed up. But then on the manifestation, we tend to act, and then their strong dictate of the state are asked. But then from a state point of view, these are a marginalized section of the society, and therefore as a citizen of India, they cannot be harsh because the humanitarian concern is also there, human rights concern is also there, and of course monopoly lies with the state. But then these are very difficult time, and then
okay, let me just before I conclude the discussion, Dr. Toming, before I conclude the discussion, I have to go to Mr. Mishra, and then I go to Rami. And Rami, this question will be for you. Is it a larger problem that Northeast people think is an imagination of a post-colonial history? Is just that we have failed to spread the message that the historical Bharat perspective had the idea of India's Northeast, Chitrangada in Mahabharat, Arjun's wife, Manipura, or for example Tripura Sundari from Tripura. It was Northeast has been part of Bharat even from historical perspective, and these modern myths are being played around that this just happened during the post-colonial times and somehow the Northeast got cobbled up. Mr. Mishra.
Yeah, you were asking me. Well, I'll tell you, Northeast is Northeast, and I can well tell you nothing to beat the scenic beauty of Imphal and Manipur and Loktak Lake. It's definitely better than Dal Lake, I can tell you. But here I am absolutely going to reply in another way. Enough is enough. No immense restraint by security forces. We have seen it in 2002, 2003 and 2004, and these routes were blocked and we opened it by force.
Okay.
First of all, 1 month, we have to deploy maximum force with army and paramilitary force. We have to clear this national highway and the Manipur-Myanmar border. Political dialogue may take place after a month. First of all, the people, they require to travel free on this national highway, and it is the first and foremost thing of the government to ensure
Absolutely. 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 The government must respond to this. Must respond to this. Absolutely. The government must respond to this. The highways must be open for all. Highway किसी की बपौती नहीं है. Closing comments from you, Rami.
Absolutely, Karthikeya, you asked a very pertinent question. I think we've carried all this sort of baggage with us, of the post-colonial period and wanting to make everybody feel equal. But why? Why? And when is it going to stop? I think, it's high time that we behave like equal citizens, that we take equal responsibility. Of course, there is all this great historical civilizational connection, but you'll be surprised how many people completely whitewash it and refuse to believe it or refuse to acknowledge it, if for nothing else but for, just being integrated with the rest of the country. But here is the thing. I think it's high time that we call a spade and we realize that we are all equal stakeholders in the peace that this country deserves. I think the national integrity of our country is primary, and that is incumbent of any citizen, whether it's a Methi, whether it's a Kuki, whether it's a Naga, whether it's a Gujarati like me, and that is when we will be equal stakeholders in the future of this country. I don't get the kind of benefits that a lot of other communities get in this country. And I'll tell you one thing, if we were to go by the kind of benefits that even some of the communities, tribal communities in the Northeast get, then we must ask the question, is it deserving to be held in perpetuity? When does it stop? Because any of the standardizations that we had for them don't apply to most of the communities any longer. I'm not saying here, I'm not advocating take it away or give more or don't give anything. I'm just saying that it depends on us. We need to decide if we want to be equal stakeholders or we want to be rats and
Rami, what I feel, I think the so-called political wokeism must end when it comes to internal conflict.
Absolutely.
This wokeism of internal politics must end. Certain things have to be done the hard way, and I think it will be done when those hard steps are taken. And my takeaway here is, which I am very clear, it's time to give peace a chance. Free movement of people is essential for it, and people must support the move by Ministry of Home Affairs and the decision taken by Amit Shah in that meeting, because he is walking the talk. So this is all on point, but do not go away. In the second on point, we will discuss should Aurangzeb Mausoleum be demolished, but after a short break.
Associate sponsor Tata AIG, with you like family, with you always.